Hey paddlers, so quick video on how to set up your paddle. So one, how long, tip to set your paddle, and secondly, where to put your hands on the paddle. So first one, key question that I get asked a lot is how long do I set my paddle for what I'm doing? So it really depends on whether or not you're a K1 paddler, a surf ski paddler, or a multi-sport paddler. Typically, multi-sport and surf ski are around the same, so the numbers I'm going to say in this video are going to relate to surf ski or multi-sport. So typically, if you're most surf ski paddlers won't be any longer than 214, 215 centimeters, and if you're a little bit smaller or a weaker paddler, you might be closer to that 2 meter mark. So it really just depends on your height and your strength, and also the distance of the race that you're about to do and the type of water that you're about to paddle in. So if you are paddling in choppier water, you might turn your stroke rate over a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, sorry, which means you want to have a shorter paddle. If you're going to be in flatter water, you might want to go for a slightly longer paddle. You might want to start off at a longer setting and then decrease it as you go, but make sure you practice that. So it really depends on you and what you want to do in the water. If you want help with that, you can check out my website, strongpaddler.com. And I can book in a 30-minute session with you and can get the right settings for you. The length I paddle with is 211, so I typically play around the 211, 212 mark. If I change anything, I normally change the blade size. So if I'm going to be in, as a surf ski paddler, if I'm going to be in a sort of bigger downwind conditions, I might go for a larger blade. Whereas if I'm going to be in smaller sort of harbour-like conditions or runs where it's really, I know I'm not going to get a lot of rest in between the runs, I might go for a smaller blade. An example of when I change my length of my blade during a race might be the coast to coast. When I did the paddle this year, it was a 4-hour plus race, so as I got into that 3-hour mark, I actually knocked a couple of centimetres towards the end off my paddle just to help me turn over quicker as I was getting tired. And I know some people also do that in surf ski races. Here's another wee tip. When you get your paddle, so you typically get up to 5 to 10 centimeters of movement, try and get the where you think you're going to paddle with pretty close to the shortest setting. I just don't like having it spread right out when I'm putting a lot of pressure on the blade, as I think it just probably fine, but I just don't like it. So I like to, so in this case, I'd have it 3 centimeters from the end. So it just gives me a little bit of flexibility to go in if I need to, and lots of flexibility to go out if I wanted to go a bit longer for a training session for whatever reason. Secondly, where do we put our hands? Okay, so the typical setup is to put your hands on your head and go 90. So if I went 90, my hands are actually on the end of the paddle. But if I come in a little bit closer, which more lines up with the start of my shoulder, so my thumb just outside the start of my shoulder is a good place. So I'm slightly less than 90 degrees, let's say 80 or 75 degrees is probably a good place to start. And I'll give you a couple or 2 drills to find out the best location for your hands, but here's the theory. So if I have my hands really wide, like this, and I go to take a stroke, you see where my blade enters the water, it's quite short. And also where my hands are relative to the blade means it's a really easy mechanical position because I've lengthened the lever to pull the water. So it's a really short, easy stroke. So I'm not grabbing a lot of water and it's really easy. If I put my hands both really close to the middle and do the same thing, you see the stroke's got a lot longer, but I've lost all the mechanical leverage of the stroke. So the mechanical lever is now shorter, which is the distance between my hands. So I need to be somewhere in between to be at the optimal efficiency. So if I go back to that same drill we just did, roughly inside of 90, I'm lucky enough to have my hand marks. There's a video on that on my website as well, how to put tape on your paddles. and I put my hands where I normally have them, and I do the same drill. You see it's come back roughly between those 2 points. So I was up here before when I was really short, and I was back here when I was really long. Somewhere in between, I've got good length, and I've got a not so hard but not so easy pull with the mechanical lever, so that's balance. So I can't be too wide because that is a short stroke but an easy pedal, and I can't be too skinny because it is a long stroke but a really hard pedal. So somewhere in the middle is good. So here are a couple of drills you can do when you're paddling, are exactly that. So here are a couple of drills you can do when you're paddling, are exactly that. So here's me paddling. Here's me going wide, so using the wide stroke. And as you're doing that when you're paddling, you'll feel the blades really easy, and it'll feel a bit weird because it's really easy and it's really short. And again, you can come into here and do that same drill on the water, really long, might be a bit tippy, so you might tip out. If you want to try another drill where you actually grab the blade on one side and extend as far out as you can, and then take a stroke, and you'll really feel that leverage increase with the stroke. Tip number 3, I know I said I only give you 2, but here's a third one for 3, is to paddle more. So the more you can paddle with your paddle, and just experiment a little bit with your hand setup. So just move them out a little bit. I normally have a bit of leeway with my hands, so I've got about 1 centimetre either side of my tape, so I can change my hand a little bit if I need to. But experiment. So if you feel like you want to move it in, or just instead of having your hand between the tape, maybe put your index finger on the tape and see how that feels, and vice versa, go out a little bit wide, and you'll just find that if you paddle enough, you'll just gravitate to where you need to be, and you'll find the most efficient position. Also, the coach's eye is the best tool to find your optimal setup. So if you're struggling to do that yourself, one, you can book a call with me on my website, strongpaddler.com, or find your local coach, and most coaches will be able to easily pick your hands too wide or too skinny on your paddle. Thanks for watching. Cheers.